Well, thank you all for joining us. My name is Bree Kimberly. I am a nurse coordinator here in Community Health and Wellness. We have an awesome presentation today with our favorite dietitian, Miss Lindsey Robinson. We're going to talk about prediabetes, which I was just looking up some statistics on this, and 1 in 3 adults. That's a lot. Millions of people in the US have this. So I think this is going to be super relevant. I'm hoping we'll learn some tricks and some prevention keys and some ways to control our risk. So I encourage everyone to start thinking of those questions you may have. You may have joined this conversation because maybe you have prediabetes, you have a family member that has prediabetes. So write those questions down because we'll fill those to Lindsey as they come. I want to tell you a little bit about my friend Lindsey, though. She's presented for us multiple times. So if you like her and her presentation style, please go back to our YouTube channel and watch the several. We've done lots. Busting this, how to read a food label. What is it?
The holiday ones. Lots of fun holiday ones
are very good. Yes. So go back and check those out. But Miss Lindsey, she is a dietitian here at the hospital. She's worked outpatient, she's worked inpatient since 2020. She graduated from Missouri State down in Springfield with a bachelor's degree in nutrition and dietetics. And then she went to Central Oklahoma to get her master's degree in nutrition and food science. She's passionate about helping others achieve their nutrition goals. And in her free time, she likes to bake, spend time with her family and friends, and be outside and hang out with her slightly overweight cat, Leo.
Woo.
He's a big boy. Guys, the chat is open. The Q&A is open. So please add your questions down there. And then I will turn it over to you, friend.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Great introduction. So I will get to everyone's questions at the end, but just go ahead and throw them in the box. And Bree is going to be emailing out this PowerPoint to everyone at the end. So you have a lot of the links, meal, snack ideas, information to look at after today as well. So let's go ahead and dive in. Oops. There we go. So the main objectives that we are going to hit today is we are going to discuss the evidence-based recommendations on how to best manage prediabetes and learn how nutrition affects our blood sugar. We're going to learn how to meet individual nutrition needs while maintaining the pleasure of eating. And then we're going to learn how to prepare balanced meals and snacks. So to kick off this conversation, what even is prediabetes? So prediabetes is when the body's blood glucose, also known as our blood sugar, those get used interchangeably, is higher than it should be, higher than normal, but it's not high enough to be considered type 2 diabetes. Glucose is the body's main energy source, and the body can either make glucose, but it can also come from certain foods that we eat, specifically our carbohydrates, and we're going to talk a lot more about carbs. And then we have a hormone called insulin that's made by our pancreas that helps glucose get into the body cells to be used for energy. But with prediabetes, the body does not use insulin as well as it should. And then glucose can stay in our blood and can't reach the cells to be used for energy and normal body functions. There's a lot of risk factors as to why someone can get prediabetes or even diabetes later in life, being overweight, obesity, having a family history. Everyone after the age of 45, that increases everyone's risk of our blood sugars being a little bit higher. Certain ethnicities like African American, American Indian, Asian American, Hispanic, Latino, Pacific Islander, not being physically active, having non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, or having a history of gestational diabetes if you were pregnant and had the hormonal diabetes. But some people have symptoms with prediabetes. Some people have no symptoms at all. So it can often go undetected for many years. It often kind of shows up until a serious health problem occurs where you go to the hospital, go to the doctor, and they just do some routine blood work. So it's really important to talk to your doctors about getting your blood sugar tested if you have any of these risk factors. We'll talk about testing and diagnosis on the next slide. but usually your doctor should be checking you for prediabetes every year at your annual physical visit. So the way they test for prediabetes is through a blood test, and this is called an HbA1c test, which stands for hemoglobin A1c. And this measures our blood sugar over a 2 to 3 month average, which is really nice because it kind of takes out any crazy outliers as to if our blood sugar is running high randomly or ran a little bit low, gives us that nice average. And so normal blood sugars would be considered 5.6 and less. Pre-diabetes is considered 5.7 to 6.4. And then we diagnose diabetes at 6.5 and higher.
Lindsey, I'm sorry, real quick.
Yeah.
Can you hear us all right? Can you pop into the chat or the Q&A and say if you can hear us? We've had someone say there's some volume issues. Guys, give me a, sounds good. Yep, I can hear. Okay. All right. Thank you. Sorry to interrupt.
No, you are good. Thank you. So pre-diabetes management, there's a lot of great ways to go about managing pre-diabetes. It's not a one-size-fits-all approach, but it is important to manage it and control our blood sugars. So yeah, good news with the correct treatment, recommendation, lifestyle changes. Many people with pre-diabetes can reverse it, prevent pre-diabetes, and even delay the onset of diabetes. But yeah, the key with all of this is creating a plan for yourself that you can enjoy and sustain lifelong. You can't just shove everyone in the same bubble and say, eat the same way, manage our health in the same way. But in as a broad sense, managing prediabetes, it can look like healthy eating. We're going to talk a lot about this. Exercise, stress management, and medication. But even within those scopes, there's so many options for exercise, so many options for healthy eating, stress management, medication. We'll really be hitting on the nutrition, talk a little bit about exercise, stress management. Medication's out of my scope, so I would recommend talking to your healthcare provider on all the medication options there. So to really start with the basics of nutrition, there's 3 main food groups in our diet. These are our carbohydrates, fats, and proteins. And we need all 3 of these guys, just certain nutrients in our food that provide us with calories, energy to function on a day-to-day basis. Protein will be more of your meat, fish, eggs, dairy, beans, nuts, seeds, peanut butters, almond butters. We do need protein. It's required for our tissue repair, building lean muscle mass, immune system function, keeping us full, and keeping our blood sugar stable, along with many other things. It's pretty much the basic building blocks for everything in our body. And then we have fats. Fats don't technically affect our blood sugar, but that doesn't mean we can just eat all the fat in the world. And we'll talk more about that. But you can always add a fat source in to keep you full, absorb all these important nutrients, another source of energy. That would be your oils, butters, margarines, salad dressings, nuts, seeds, and avocados. And then of the 3 carbohydrates, this is the one that does affect your blood sugars. This would be bread, rice, pasta, any kind of fruit, milk, yogurt, beans, peas, and then the starchy vegetables, peas, corn, potatoes, and a lot of our sweetened snack foods. But just because carbs affect our blood sugar doesn't mean we shouldn't eat them. And we're going to talk more about that. But specifically, all carbs that we just kind of list off, the bread, the fruit, the pasta, those all get broken down into glucose. And that's what impacts our blood sugars. But we do need it because the primary function of carbs is to provide energy for our body, especially our brain and our nervous system. The body can use fat as energy, but not specifically for the brain and nervous system. But it's really important to note for, feeling good, but also sustainability is we need all 3 of those macronutrients in our diet. And any eating plan that does eliminate one of those is not a good diet plan. And yes, just because carbs affect our blood sugar doesn't mean we should cut them out from our diet. So even though protein and fat don't affect your blood sugars directly, doesn't mean we can have, like a high protein or high fat diet, just because anything in excess gets stored as fat. And having larger fat cells will prevent your glucose from absorbing as well as you want it to. So with carbohydrates, not all carbs are necessarily equal. So all those carb-containing foods get broken down into two categories. We have your complex carbs and our simple carbs. Your complex carbs are the types of carbs you want to choose more often. There's lots more vitamins, minerals, fiber to keep you full, plus they don't spike your blood sugar as much. So this would be any kind of whole grain, whole wheat product. So like whole grain bread, whole wheat pasta, brown rice, beans and legumes, any kind of fruit, and those starchy vegetables being the peas, corn, potatoes. So doing like a banana as your carb or some whole grain bread or a potato would be a good thing. It's the simple carbs you want to limit, like your juice, soda, sugar, candy, white breads, white pastas. They're just more processed, not as much fiber, so they may spike your blood sugar a bit more. But really the key with carbs is moderation. It's not that I want you to cut them out, but it's not that we want to overdo it on the carbs. It's really, I want you to get carbs each time you eat, just how much. And we're going to talk more about that. But the body's weird on how it works. If you don't eat enough carbs, then your blood sugar gets too low. And then what happens is your liver is going to kick in to bring your blood sugar back to where we want it. But with prediabetes, sometimes your liver doesn't know when to stop. So it just keeps shooting your blood sugar up. So it actually makes it too high. But then if you eat a lot of carbs, your blood sugar is too high. So it's kind of finding that nice balance of what's a good portion, but not overdoing it. Which makes no sense because in anyone's right mind, it's when you say carbs affect your blood sugar, a lot of people think don't eat them, but that can actually spike our blood sugar a little too much as well. So all the vegetables besides your peas, corn, potatoes, these are called your non-starchy vegetables. And these do not have carbohydrates, not a significant amount to do anything to your blood sugar. So filling up on these, focusing on those non-starchy vegetables to keep you full, help control portions in other areas. So like lettuce, tomato, cucumber, broccoli, spinach, carrots, bell peppers, zucchini, mushrooms, so on and so forth. Green beans isn't on there. So just, long list there. But yeah, very low in calories, lots of fiber, vitamins, minerals to keep you full. And it can be fresh, frozen, canned. Any of their produce is going to be nutritious. It's just budget-wise, taste bud-wise, but all those are going to be good. And then fats. So even though fats don't affect our blood sugar, they do play a role with our heart health, which is important just because people with prediabetes and diabetes are at an increased risk of heart disease. But in the grand scheme of things, just take one thing at a time. So again, you're going to get this PowerPoint, just kind of have this resource with you. But kind of like carbs, there's certain types of fats. We want to limit the saturated fats and the trans fats because these can increase the risk of heart disease, like your butters, margarines, coconut oil, whole fat dairy, and our high fat meats. And we'll talk more about those. But kind of a good visual to remember it by is anything solid at room temperature, that's how it sits in our arteries. So you think about butter being solid. Coconut oil is the one oil that is solid at room temp. And you think about like bacon fat, that solidifies at room temp. But you'll notice the wording on like the simple carbs, the saturated fats. It says limit, not avoid. There's no food you have to completely cut out of your diet. Just because when you cut out foods that you love, we're more likely to overindulge later. So it's really maybe what else we can do instead of, how much, how often. So instead of trying to do more of your unsaturated fats, these are going to be more heart protective, reduce the risk of heart disease, more anti-inflammatory, and these are generally liquid at room temp. So think about all those other oils: olive oil, avocado oil, vegetable oil, canola oil, liquid at room temp, so flows right through those arteries. Nuts and seeds would be also those heart protective fats, and avocados. So we want to limit whole fat dairy. So instead doing more of your low fat dairy, like 1% skim milk, low fat yogurt, low fat cottage cheese. When you get so nitpicky with all the different types of cheeses, they're kind of all the same. Some have a little bit more salt, but there'll be lower fat. Some have more fat, a little less salt. So just anything in excess, it is going to be a saturated fat. So don't overdo it on the cheese, but just do whatever cheese you want. Plus, it's going to be a good source on protein. And then with protein, so protein's really important. Touch on it a little bit, but protein's really going to keep you full and keep those blood sugars stable. So we do want to try to get some sort of protein in each time we eat. We just want to do more of the lean protein for the heart health of it, which would be considered 90% lean beef or higher. Just get whatever beef you want and just really drain the fat. Because I get the 85-15 at Costco, cheapest way to do that versus spending more money to get the 90% and just really draining the fat there. Skinless chicken, pork chops, any of your turkey, fish, seafood, eggs. With the red meat, with the pork and the beef, try to do like your round and your loin cuts. Those will have less fat to them. So like a sirloin, pork loin, tenderloin, trimming the visible fat, lowering those saturated fats. And we got a lot of good plant-based protein options too, which tend to be cheaper than meat sometimes. And just to switch it up so you're not only getting burnt out on chicken and fish all the time. But you have your beans, lentils, soy products like tofu, tempeh, edamame, all your nuts and seeds, peanut butters, almond butters, chia seeds, flax seeds, hemp seeds, quinoa. A lot of great options too. So we want to limit more of your processed meats. This would be deli meats, bacon, bologna, sausage, hot dogs, even like your chicken sausage, turkey sausage. Those are going to be higher in those saturated fats we want to limit. And overall, just doing more of your lean cooking methods like bake, broil, grill, steam, poach, and limit the deep fat frying. So we mentioned fiber a couple times. Fiber is going to do a lot of good for us. It's going to help lower our cholesterol, better for our blood pressure, bowel regularity. It's going to help keep your blood sugars more stable. It's going to keep you full and can help with weight management. So because fiber does all these great things for us, we want to eat it more often, which really is going to come from a lot of our carbohydrate foods. So those whole grains, beans, legumes, all the fruits, but then your both starchy and non-starchy vegetables will give you that fiber. You don't need to count your fiber, just if you're curious on the recommendation. Men need about 35 grams a day. Women need about 25 grams a day. But that's very a loose guideline because some people need to eat more fiber, less fiber, depending on what everyone's gut can tolerate. If you are interested in eating more fiber, don't just start eating high fiber all at once. Gradually increase it over time. Staying hydrated, being active will kind of help your body adjust better. So to really kind of put everything together that we've gone through so far, so we really want to build balanced meals and snacks with all this information. We want to eat a variety of foods at meal and snack times. I tell people really one of the major takeaways out of the whole nutrition thing is whenever you are having a meal or a snack, eat something with a carb and get a protein with it. It's really about how you put foods together, because when you only eat a carb by itself, like if you're only eating bread or only eating fruit, your blood sugar spikes a bit more. And then after an hour or two, our blood sugar drops too low. We get really hungry, that liver can kick in and then kind of overcompensate and spike our blood sugar again. So when we only eat carbs, our blood sugar is kind of just bouncing around all day. But when you have a protein with the carb, like if you do a banana and peanut butter, cheese and crackers, meat and potatoes, your blood sugar is not going to spike as quick and it's not going to fall after an hour or two. It's really going to stay level, steady for about 4 to 5 hours. Plus, you won't be so hungry and a lot more full. But on the flip side, if you're only eating protein and no carbs, we're exhausted, our blood sugar is too low, and that's when that liver can kick in again and, make it too high. So it's really kind of how can we add something in? How could I better pair a carb and a protein together? And I got some snacks on the next slide for you too. And eating a consistent amount of carbs is key. So again, we'll talk about how much, portions, different ways to measure that, but it's more beneficial for the body if you get around the same amount of carbs each time you eat versus doing a really high carb breakfast, a low carb lunch. Get around the same amount, just so your energy is more consistent and your blood sugars will be more consistent as well. And then just anywhere you can add a fruit or a vegetable just for more nutrients, fiber to keep you full, the better. So something I like to do is ask myself, how could I add a fruit to this meal? Or how could I add a vegetable? Because if I'm doing cheese and crackers, there's that perfect carb and protein, but maybe I want to do cheese, crackers, and grapes. Or if I'm doing pretzels and hummus, maybe I want to do pretzels, hummus, and some bell peppers. Just anywhere you can kind of add a fruit or a vegetable, the better. The other really important takeaway I would say on top of the pairing of the carbs and proteins is our timing of meals. So you can honestly eat however many meals, however many snacks you want a day. This is where it's very loosely based off when you get hungry, what's your routine, what do you feel best doing. But we want to eat every 2 to 5 hours because your blood sugar will drop after 5 hours and that liver can spike it too high. So it's crazy that not eating can make your blood sugar high. Plus, just for better portion control, to try to have a snack or have a meal if you're going longer than 5 hours. But your body does need a 2-hour break in between snacks or meals to let your blood sugars come back down and digest everything you just ate. So with that being said, some people do 3 meals, no snacks a day. Some people do 2 meals, 2 snacks. Maybe it's 4 moderate size meals, 3 meals, 3 snacks. So it's really, it doesn't have to be a certain way. You can make it work with whatever you want to do. And there's not a time of the day you have to stop eating. That's kind of all bogus as well. Your body generally needs about a 12-hour break from the last time you're eating to the next morning. So if you're not eating till 11 a.m., it's okay to have an 11 p.m. snack. It's just maybe what we're having as a snack some of the time, but there's not like a set cutoff for time on the clock to stop eating. Now, I would use a little bit of caution with like intermittent fasting, going too long without eating over the night if you do like an 18 or a 16-hour fast, because that long break can cause your liver to kick in overnight and spike our blood sugar too much in the morning. So you can do intermittent fasting, you can do those things, just making sure that your blood sugar isn't spiking too high and those blood sugars are under control. But to get a lot of those benefits, it's really that 12 hours is all you need. But if you don't get that, it's not the end of the world, because sometimes we do recommend only going 10 hours without eating. So I'm not going to stay on this one too long, but again, you'll get the PowerPoint, change it up to what you like. Just some snack ideas on how to incorporate a lot of the things we've gone through so far of incorporating more fruits and vegetables, lean proteins, high fiber carbs, and the pairing there. So yeah, that could be some like yogurt, granola, and some berries. Simple trail mix. If it's some dried fruit, nuts, M&Ms, that's okay. Or whether, yeah, it's a banana and peanut butter or banana and protein shake. Just kind of some ideas on how to incorporate these types of things. Now we're going to get into more portions. And there's a lot of different tools you can use to know, am I getting enough? How much should I be eating? We're going to go through all those things. Some people like to carb count. Carb counting is beneficial when we're trying to look at food labels. So with carb counting, the amount should be consistent at meal times. So if you want to go this route, I would recommend counting carbs at meal times versus a whole day. Because, you know, we can't just do like 0 at breakfast and then 100 at dinner. But in general, for most people, women, I say around 45 per meal, men around 60 per meal. I tell people, usually when you go less than 30 carbs per meal, that's not enough to give you energy, and then your liver can kick in from not getting enough. But there are some people that need up to 75 carbs per meal. So that's something that you can always work with a dietitian on individualizing that for you. But kind of general public, 45 to 60 per meal. And then snacks are about 15 to 30 grams of carbs per meal. So yeah, it's not that carryover plan. So any unused grams of carbs do not carry over into the next meal or snack. So if you are allowed 45 to 60 grams of carbs at breakfast, you only eat 30 carbs, you can't carry over the 30 you didn't use. But on the flip side, if you were to have 80 carbs at breakfast, I still want you to get 45 to 60 at lunch. So each meal is a clean slate and a lot easier to keep track of too. When you are looking at a label, and again, you don't have to carb count, you don't have to look at labels. This is just, yeah, one of those many options. But when you look at the label, you want to look at the serving size up top. Serving size is not portion size. I tell people if I could instill something in everyone's head, it would be that right there. Because a lot of times people feel guilty of I'm eating more than the serving size or I don't eat that much. It's just how they did the math. So for this example, 2/3 cup, and then you want to look at the total carbohydrates in the grams. So this example has 37 carbs. If you want to double the serving size, just double that total carb content. If you're only doing half a serving, just half the total carbs. So it's really, you get to choose how you spend your carbs, just loosely based off getting 45 to 60 per meal. So I wouldn't look at the calories. I wouldn't look at the percents on this side. It's the more total carbs in the grams. But underneath that, they indent it and they have dietary fiber, total sugars, and added sugars. Those are all types of carbs. That's why they're indented. It's telling you where the 37 is made up from. So you don't need to look at sugars, added sugars, just look at the total carbs. It's really confusing because when you're saying blood sugar, everyone thinks, okay, total sugar or sugars in my food. But that word is getting used to describe too many different things. And there's other things besides sugar that affect our blood sugar in total. Some people really kind of like want to limit their sugar intake for overall health and just add it in the processing of foods. And that's where if you want to look at the added sugars, you can. And women need to limit added sugars to about 25 grams a day. Men's about 36 grams a day. But that's just added sugars, not total sugars. Because total sugars is including the natural sugars that you find in your fruit and your yogurt, where a lot of that fiber comes from. But regardless, you still kind of want to base off total carbs. But then when you even look at it more, 12 plus 4 doesn't equal 37. And so they're not giving you the whole picture. They're not telling you where more of the starches are coming from that you find in breads and pastas and rice. So food labels can be very confusing, but really, if you want to go the carb counting route, just look at the serving size and the total carbs in the grams. A lot of our fruits and vegetables, a lot of our food products, like those things don't have a label. So you can always use an app like MyFitnessPal or whatever app you find, Googling it to tell you the carb content. And on these next couple slides we'll get to, I just wrote out just general carb content of some foods for you guys to also reference in this PowerPoint. So just to kind of get some practice with some label reading, we're going to pick on yogurt first, because yogurt's all over the place. I mean, there's some yogurts that are really low in carbs, some yogurts that are really high in carbohydrates. So to kind of get comfortable there. So if we were to do 3/4 cup of this yogurt, it's going to give us 7 carbs. So this is pretty low in the carbohydrates. You could add some honey to this. You could add some fruit to this. If we're shooting for a snack, we kind of want that 15 to 30. If it's with a mealtime, definitely wanting to add some more carbs there. So it's that fine line of I want you to eat them, just not too much. And then you have more of like a sugar sweetened yogurt, which you can still have, but this one container is giving you 27 carbs. So this wouldn't be one that I would add like honey and granola and fruit to, because they've already added the sweetness for you. So both are healthy options. It's just kind of paying attention to where you're at in the carbs. Pick on pizza a little bit too. So this example of a frozen pizza, if I cut this whole thing in 6 slices, one slice is going to give us 35 carbohydrates, which is just crazy to me that that one tiny slice is already at 35 carbs. And I'm not just going to eat one slice of pizza. If I do 2 slices, that's already 70. 3 slices, there's 105. It's not crazy to say I could totally eat this whole thing and I'm over 200 grams of carbs. So it's not that you can't have this. It's, you know, what else can we add to this meal to keep us full so we're not only filling up on carbs? And so that's where adding more protein, more of those unsaturated fats, any of those non-starchy vegetables to keep us full and expand that meal. So for this, if you want to do like a slice or 2, maybe serve it with like a side salad that has some nuts, some boiled eggs on them, or you want to do some roasted vegetables on this side versus not having this at all. So here's this general kind of most of your fruits and the carb content here. I do like this slide because there's a lot of misinformation about fruits. Your banana is the highest carb containing fruit at about 29, 30-ish carbs. Strawberries for half a cup or some of your lowest at around 6. But all your fruit's good. We really want a variety for overall health. So even though your berries tend to be lower, it's not that we only want to stick with berries. It's very situational. It's how many carbs have you eaten with meals? Are you kind of at the highest point to maybe we should go with the berries, or do you still need 60 carbs? Probably 60 carbs with the strawberries is going to be too much. So it's what sounds good, where you at with your numbers, but you can really make all foods fit. Same thing on vegetables. So I bolded the more starch containing ones. So the potatoes, corn, and peas, and your winter squash do have some carbs. This will be like your butternut squash, spaghetti squash, acorn squash. Your zucchini and your yellow squash, those don't have carbs. So just to kind of show you too, it says like beets are 8, onions are 7, carrots are 6. Anything around 5 carbs or less is considered 0 because it's not a significant amount to do anything to your blood sugar. You would have, I mean, there's no way beets that are going to spike your blood sugar because there's so much other fiber, water that it wouldn't even let that happen. So some people like to count it, but just to kind of give people the like, oh, lettuce, 1 carb. There's nothing there. Grains, cereal is going to be all over the place. To kind of look at those labels, like your yogurt, it can be anywhere from 12 to 50 grams for half a cup to a cup. 1 slice of bread's about 15, we round, because it can be anywhere from 12 to 20 for a slice. But just to go to show, if you were to do 2 slices of bread on a sandwich, that's really only 30 to 40 carbs. So I would say have the 2 slices of bread, if not maybe some fruit on the side for a little bit more carbs. So I won't go through every single one of these examples. So a lot of your grains have those food labels you can look at, or you can kind of reference back on this. But pasta too. No one's eating half a cup of pasta. I'm definitely going to have more than that. And you can, it's just how they did the math there. So even if I want to do a cup of pasta, that's only 40 carbs. Have that plus more. Still, maybe get some protein vegetables to expand your meal and keep you full. So you're not just filling up on pasta, but you know, definitely more than half a cup. Dairy, beans, kind of miscellaneous here. Yogurt can be all over the place. Cheese and cottage cheese, those are really only protein foods. It's really the milk, the yogurt, ice cream, things like that, that will give you both carbs and protein. Beans is going to vary a little bit, 35 to 47 for a cup. Put the sweeteners and condiments on here if you kind of want to check these out. We're going to talk about like artificial sweeteners, sugar, alcohols a little bit today too. But I know a lot of people say, do like monk fruit, do honey, don't do your regular brown sugar, white sugar. It's all sugar to the body. What honey, maple syrup, monk fruit's not any better than another because it's all sugar. The only extra benefit of honey would be, you know, helping with seasonal allergies if you get a local honey or something. But you can kind of see they're all relatively the same. Monk fruit is lower, but I put that on there because I feel like a lot of people think monk fruit doesn't affect your blood sugar. It's just maybe a little bit less. So type of sweetener, whatever you prefer taste bud wise. And use caution with your condiments too, because a little bit can add up. I mean, only a tablespoon of ketchup has 5 carbs. But I use way more than a tablespoon of ketchup when I have some French fries or a burger or something. So if you're not that ketchup's your only carb source, but it can add up a little bit more quicker than we would think sometimes. So to give you some meal ideas on top of, you know, where the carbs are coming from, I'm going to give you like a day's worth. Change it up to what you like. Not that you need to follow this to a T, but just to bring all this together, let's say you want to do like a breakfast sandwich. So we have an English muffin, put some eggs on there for some protein, slice a tomato, and serve it with the side of fruit. That's really only going to give you about 42 carbs. So about 30 in an English muffin, 12, give or take, in a cup of strawberries, and you got that protein. So this is a good example of you're getting some whole grains, protein, fiber, and the pairing of the carbs and proteins together. A good lunch idea could be maybe do like a turkey sandwich with some mayo and mustard, serve it with some carrots and guac on the side, and a side of grapes. That's a pretty filling meal here. And you're only at 45 carbs. So really only about 30 for sandwiches. You're getting some protein on it. Nothing in your mayo and mustard. Guac for some healthy fat, carrots, non-starchy vegetables, and a little bit more grapes for some sweet and fiber. Just to help kind of get you to that 45 carbs. Again, change it up, but this could maybe be an example of a balanced meal you want to try. Throw in a snack in there. Just remember to kind of eat every 2 to 5 hours, kind of get you through the day. But maybe you want to do some, like an orange with a handful of almonds and a cheese stick. Orange for some carbs, and then almonds and cheese for a little bit more protein there. And then let's say dinner, you want to do some salmon, baked potato, and some asparagus. Not that you actually have to be exactly at 45 carbs every time you eat, but that ballpark range. Maybe do 3 to 6 ounces of salmon, a baked potato, some diced potatoes. All potatoes are the same. And that non-starchy vegetable for your asparagus. This is a perfect example, especially looking at this picture. How do you carb count those potatoes? So you can't always carb count all the things that you eat, nor do you have to, but this is kind of a nice, good example of what else you can do to measure portions beyond the numbers of things. And so that is our plate method. And so the plate method is a really good visual tool you can use to know, am I getting enough carbs? Am I getting too much without having to count? This can be good at home. It can be good with eating out. But it works by you eyeball about 1/4 of your plate to be carbs. 1/4 of our plate's a good source on protein, and then half to be any of those non-starchy vegetables. You can't always section your plate to do this though. So realistically, I tell people, use it like a checklist. As long as you're getting those types of foods mixed in your meal some way, somehow, that's a perfect balanced meal. So now that we're in the crock pot, chili, soup season, you can't do that with your soup or chili. But, chili, the non-starchy vegetables would be onions, tomatoes, bell peppers. The protein would be the meat and the beans, carb-wise. A little bit in your beans, have some cornbread, crackers, check, check, check. It has all those components. And if you're hungry, go back for seconds. It's okay to go back for more. If you're full, you certainly don't have to finish. So this is more of another option to try in combination with carb counting instead of, and then we'll kind of talk about another option as well. So very similar to the plate method, they kind of overlap a bit, but using mindful eating or intuitive eating techniques. This is a tool to help monitor your portion sizes, but meet your individualized nutrition needs versus being restricted to 1/4 of a plate or 45 carbs. This works by honoring your body's hunger and fullness cues. And we want to use those cues to tell us how often we feel like eating, but also how much we feel like eating. Because sometimes our eyes are bigger than our stomach, and maybe that bowl of chili was a lot deeper than we thought. Not everyone's body produces hunger and fullness cues. Whether it's been a crazy busy workday and we haven't had time to eat, whether it's certain medical conditions, just various things that we may not always feel that hunger and fullness. So it's really the balance of listen to your body, but keep in mind that 2 to 5 hour rule of, okay, even though I'm not hungry, I know if I go longer than 5 hours without eating, my blood sugar is going to spike. Plus, it's easy to overeat at that point. And the goal is to fuel and nourish the body. We can't just not eat. I know food's definitely often viewed as the enemy for and the problem to a lot of things, but if we don't eat, your body's going to try to play catch up later. So it's how can we choose more of these nourishing, fueling foods without just eating less or not eating. To kind of help you become more in tune with your body, if you feel like you don't know if you have those hunger and fullness cues or you feel like they've been lost, eating slowly, taking time with your meals. that can kind of help just give us more time and, ask ourselves, am I physically hungry or am I full and satisfied? And my favorite principle out of the whole mindful eating world is there's no forbidden foods. It's really, you can still enjoy all foods. Moderation is key because you don't have to have a perfect diet to be healthy. And some other just kind of nutrition related things. Hydration. This is really important. Making sure you're staying plenty hydrated because a lot of times if we don't drink enough water, dehydration can spike our blood sugars too. Plus, we just want to watch out for carbs and empty calories in liquid form, like regular soda, juice, sweet tea, lemonade, slushies, smoothies, energy drinks. So try to develop a plan to maintain your fluid intake. Some people like to carry a water bottle with them, setting alarms on their phone, using a straw helps them drink more sometimes. But I know a lot of people say they can't carry a water bottle around with them all day. So if you're not more of like a sipper of a water bottle, just maybe have a glass of water anytime you're having a sit-down meal, a sit-down snack, have 4 to 8 ounces of water. But we need about 64 ounces a day or about 8 cups a day. Really wanting to have a light yellow urine color. That's the best way to know if we're hydrated or not. But if you're not a big water person or you just struggle to get it in, use those water enhancers like Crystal Light, Mio, any of those sugar-free beverages like Propel, Gatorade Zero, maybe adding a lemon to your water if you don't like the artificial taste. So whether that's adding lemon, fresh fruit, cucumbers, those carbonated waters, it's all going to count, just whatever kind of help to get you to that goal. Sugar alcohols, artificial sweeteners, we're going to talk about those next. I feel like there's always lots of questions on this, and they're very easy to get confused with each other as well. And so sugar alcohols, this is one type of reduced calorie sweetener. So it's half the calories, half the sugar than maybe like your brown sugar, your honey, things like that. They are harder on the body to digest. They don't affect your blood sugar as much, but they still affect your blood sugar. And they typically end in OL. So sorbitol, mannitol, xylitol, erythritol. They don't actually contain alcohol though. But these are often found in products labeled sugar-free, especially like with a lot of our muffins, our cakes, cookies, candies, sweets, things like that. So kind of some visual pictures here. You'll see, the sugar-free or no sugar added. But the misconception with sugar alcohols is that sugar-free often means carb-free, which unfortunately does not mean that. A lot of these products, especially these, they still contain a lot of carbohydrates. So just because you're taking out the sugar doesn't mean it doesn't have carbs, because it still has like the flour, and the sugar alcohols itself can still affect your blood sugar a bit. It may have less carbs than the regular version, but just really be mindful looking at those nutrition facts labels to see what it says for the total carbohydrates. And just be careful, because consuming too much sugar alcohols can have some bad GI side effects like gas, bloating, laxative effect. So you can use sugar alcohols if you tolerate them, you're being mindful on the carbs, or you can just use the regular version of the food and just cut back on your portions. And consider the price as well. Those sugar-free options tend to cost more as well. And then you have your artificial sweeteners, which are different. These are non-nutritive sweeteners that offer the sweet taste of sugar, but have no carbs, no calories, and they have no effect on your blood sugar. And when used in place of sugar at meal times, this can help you stay within your recommended amount of carbs. And artificial sweeteners, this would be your Equal, Splenda, Sweet One, Sweet and Low. Stevia technically gets grouped into this, but it's plant-based, it's not artificial. But stevia doesn't affect your blood sugar. And these are deemed safe by the FDA to consume. Some people notice they don't like the taste, or they just maybe notice some GI side effects or some joint pain with some autoimmune disorders. So if that's the case, use your regular version of sugar and just watch your portions. But if you like to consume these and it helps you manage your blood sugar, that's what they're there for. These are perfect. But overall, I would say between the artificial sweeteners and those sugar alcohols, both can be used in, managing your blood sugars. It's just, what do you prefer? Talk a little bit about stress management. So easier said than done to just manage our stress, but it does affect our blood sugar. If our stress is really, really high, that hormonal reaction there can cause our blood sugars to spike. So we just want to find those ways to best manage our stress and our emotions. And remember, we're going to all eat for comfort from time to time. That does not make you a failure. It's just a part of normal eating. It means you're a normal human being. We just want to find those healthy coping mechanisms most of the time to best care for your brain and your body overall. So it's just taking time to relax, unwind, finding those ways that bring you that joy, manage your stress, whether it's meditation, aromatherapy, exercise, reading, self-care, yoga, but making time for your interests and your hobbies. Maybe get back into something that you had when you were in high school or you were a kid or, younger age years. And it's just kind of maybe getting back into those things. Or even talking with the licensed therapist, talking to someone who knows how to help you come up with those strategies to best help our emotions. So again, easier said than done, but too much stress isn't going to be good for those blood sugars. Exercise as well. So exercise, one, is going to be good for our blood sugars, but finding the right form of exercise can also help manage our stress. So it's going to lower those blood sugars, manage stress, and keep your mind and body feeling good. I don't want you to choose an exercise that's going to increase your stress, because then that's kind of counterintuitive. But I don't want you to think of exercise as a punishment for foods that you've eaten or give you permission for foods to go eat. It's really moving your body in a way that makes you feel good about and more positive about your health and reduce the stress. So think of it like anytime you're moving your body, that counts as exercise. Whether it's walking, whether it's yoga, whether it's running a marathon, whether it's taking an extra aisle at the grocery store, just anytime you're moving your body, whether it's in 5-minute increments, whether it's at 2 hours, it's all going to be good. So just some nice ideas to help increase movement throughout the day: yoga, walk, stretch, bike, yard work, water aerobics, online workout videos, parking further away from the grocery store, taking the stairs versus the elevator. For a lot of people who have like hip and knee problems, I don't want you to hurt yourself by being more active. So it's finding those ways to get your body still going to feel good. Whether it is water aerobics, stretchy bands are great. So you can kind of sit down and use those with your arms. Chair exercises are great with joint pain. Playing a sport, dancing, chasing kids around. Any movement's going to count here. I love this slide. So it's really kind of shifting our mindset of why we're exercising, because that's also going to help the mental component of it. But just this is only a short percentage of the benefits of exercise. So when you're exercising, focus on all these benefits beyond weight or blood sugars. It's going to help with your bone strength, increase stress tolerance. It's going to help decrease blood pressure, reduces the risk for many types of chronic diseases, increase heart and lung strength, increase metabolism, helps better appetite regulation, improved mood and memory, better sleep at night, gives you more energy, improved balance, and many, 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 many more. So yeah, that's a really good slide. Lots of recipe links for you to check out when you guys get this PowerPoint that you see some diabetes. A lot of the diabetes recipes, it's automatically going to be good for your blood sugars for pre-diabetes. There's really no diabetes, pre-diabetes diet. It's just, this is kind of a way most people should be eating anyway. So you don't have to use like pre-diabetes recipes. You really can kind of take these tools that you've learned and use any recipe. But a lot of these are by dietitians, trusted resources to check out. Okay, I know we've talked about a lot today. You guys have all survived. So just to really kind of hit home, what are the main key takeaways from today's presentation? That the three main macronutrients, food groups in our diet are going to be carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Carbohydrates is the food group that affects your blood sugar, but that doesn't mean we can't have them. It's just moderation, smaller portions. And we want to eat every 2 to 5 hours. Just when you go longer than that 5 hours, our blood sugar can actually spike. And just trying to get a carb with a protein for most meals and snacks. And then anywhere you can add a vegetable, the better. But don't always have to. But the goal with all this is creating those lifelong sustainable changes. So I tell people, focus on progress, not perfection. Because one, we don't have to be perfect. Plus, when they test your blood sugars, it's an average anyway. It's taking out all those outliers. But change does occur slowly. So to kind of set yourself up for success, it's setting about 1 to 3 goals for yourself. Because that's kind of a good point of you have something to start with, but you're not trying to do it all at once. But set something that's practical for you. If you're like, I'm never going to wake up early in the morning and go work out, don't make that a goal. And the nice thing is what's healthy for you is also healthy for the whole entire family. So maybe not that someone needs to get so strict with maybe the carb content of things, but the timing of meals, the types of foods, it's going to be beneficial for a lot of people. Okay, thank you guys. I'm going to answer all of your amazing questions right now. But if you think of something after today, call me, email me, don't hesitate to reach out. If you do want to see a dietitian for more individualized one-on-one education counseling, your doctor just needs to put in an order, and we have a great team of a bunch of dietitians here. So, yeah.
Or see any doctor saying, no, you can't see a dietitian.
Yeah.
So definitely hit them up. If you've got the patient portal, just send them a message.
Mm-hmm.
Lots and lots of information. Wow.
I know, it's a lot. Everyone give yourself a brain break. I tell people, go home, ignore this for a couple days, let all that settle in. That's why I got the PowerPoint.
That's what, yeah, I'll send you guys the PowerPoint if you've registered. Also, we put this up on our YouTube channel too. So if you, for some reason you lose the PowerPoint, just go back and watch that video.
Or email me, I'll email it to you. Yeah.
I know you guys have to have some questions.
Yeah, let me.
Something.
Okay, I'm scrolling here.
I think a big one for me when I started to learn about nutrition was the food label. So
yeah,
it's very overwhelming. They don't make it easy. So practicing that, looking at the stuff that you eat all the time and just trying to understand what those things are. Also meeting up with that dietitian, that would be a great opportunity to get more deep dive, of how to read a label.
Yeah, those things are so confusing. Because they're only giving you part of the picture, and no one tells you how to read them. So,
all right, we got a question. How do you feel about green powder supplements?
I love this question. So a lot of those like vegetable powders, pills. So unfortunately, we haven't figured out a way to completely replicate our produce into supplements. So I typically tell people it's just kind of finding those ways you have to kind of eat your fruits and vegetables, whether it's fresh, frozen, canned, cooked, seasoning it. But it's not a good way to substitute our fruits and vegetables. Protein drinks, on the other hand, like those are kind of a nice, easy grab and go source of protein, but I wouldn't typically recommend using those supplements. Plus, they put a lot of other just like really high doses of vitamins and minerals in there. That's not always good for everyone. Plus, it's cheaper to eat your fruits and vegetables sometimes too and save your money on the supplements.
Yeah, because some of that stuff's expensive.
It is. Yeah.
All right,
I tell people all the time. I'm like, as soon as they find a way to replicate our fruits and vegetables in powder pill form, I'm all for it. We just haven't figured it out yet. So, yeah.
I got another one. I am underweight and also have GERD issues, so I can't eat some of the preferred fruits and vegetables. Any ideas?
Yeah, so with GERD, they kind of said at one point like citrusy things, tomatoes, but it's really, we found everyone's very different on kind of what fruits and vegetables they can tolerate with GERD. So it's sometimes keeping like a little bit of a food journal just to see like, hey, I had this, how did I feel? Is the recommendation there. But everything else I think we kind of talked about. Well, it's not going to trigger your GERD because you want the low saturated fats there too. Um, and yeah, I would say if you have more kind of questions specifically, just yeah, call me, email me too.
And they're underweight. So
Yeah.
probably going to find some ways to put some weight
Mhm.
on.
Yeah, prioritize the protein. That'll really help maintain your muscle mass. And then small, frequent meals. So maybe eating every like 2 to 3 or even 4-ish hours, just because smaller meals do better on the stomach, easier to tolerate than large meals. Um, Also liquids. Drinking a protein shake or drinking like a Boost or an Ensure, that's a really great way to, it's not as filling as eating like a whole chicken breast. So smoothies, liquid, calories like that, I would say can
And
be.
throwing in some peanut butter into your protein shake. Super yummy.
Mhm. Oh yeah.
Or a banana too, if you can
Mhm.
tolerate a banana.
Yeah.
Any other questions, guys?
I thought there was 14 questions. I was like, oh man, but that was all the sound stuff.
Um, I think a big one, especially with sugar, washing the drinks. I
Mhm.
think it's when you start learning how to read that food label and realizing that a real Coke has like 40 grams of sugar in it, is just mind blowing.
Yeah.
So if that's something that you're doing on a regular, be mindful of that.
Mhm.
I also like you talked about activity.
Mhm.
Exercise is almost a bad E word. When you talk about activity, when I worked on the floor as a nurse, we would have patients that they were diabetics and their blood sugar would be high because we would check their blood sugar before
Mhm.
they eat their meal. And if their blood sugar was high, we didn't want to let them eat another meal and make it even higher. So what we
Yeah.
would do on the unit is we would take a walk around the unit, and that
Mhm.
would significantly drop their blood sugar levels. So
Yeah.
keep that in mind, the activity, whether it's an extra vacuum of the house, picking
Mhm.
up sticks in the yard, makes a huge difference on your blood sugar because you're burning it off.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, there's nothing like nutrition wise we can go eat to lower our blood sugar. So yeah, the hydration and the activity, those are the two things you can kind of do immediately just to help bring that back down.
All right. Well,
Awesome.
they're probably all just like mind so full
I know. I
of
know.
information.
Yeah,
Mine is, and I know some of this stuff.
that's normal. I mean,
Yeah.
it is a lot of information at once, but it's making it work for you and baby steps, giving yourself that mental brain break and taking one thing at a time. Because
One
that's
thing
all
I
we
love
can do.
about Lindsay's teaching is that you never say, don't eat that. You're always like,
Never
moderate.
hear me say that. Yeah.
No. And it's given me so much grace, I guess, with myself.
Yes.
I
Good.
can eat that.
Yeah. Because we have taste buds. We want to enjoy the flavor of our foods.
Mhm.
Um, there's an old saying I feel like some people tell me is like, if it tastes good, spit it out. No, enjoy it. Swallow the food. Enjoy it.
Uh, I love to eat.
Me
Well,
too.
thank you guys for joining us today. And thank you, Lindsay.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Appreciate you sharing your knowledge with us. Um, Please check back to the North Kansas City Hospital website, nkch.org, for more classes and events, which is where you probably found this, or hop on over to our YouTube channel, which I've mentioned a couple of times, and check out other content we have there. We will send you guys an email with this video recording, Lindsay's contact information, and Lindsay's PowerPoint. So be looking for that. And hopefully we'll see you next time. Bye, guys. Bye, Lindsay.
Bye.